So now let's talk about our second habit, which is notice. So this is really about becoming aware of how we feel in different situations, whether we're using media or not, and making choices considering those feelings. So let's just dive into how media and technology can affect children's moods, behaviors, bodies. Like let's talk about the real facts of it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, relatable, positive content can improve a child's thoughts and feelings and behaviors. And as a therapist, as a psychologist, I'm constantly talking with children and parents about how thoughts and feelings and behaviors are connected bidirectionally and have an impact on each other. Similarly, negative content can do the opposite for kids, right? It can make them more irritable, it can make them feel really sad or upset. And just like adults, what a child takes in and thinks about relates, immediately to what they're accessing through media and will impact their feelings and their behaviors and kind of what they're putting out there in the world. So it is important to not just kind of be aware of that as parents, but start to have conversations with your children
Mm.
about how that can occur.
So what would some of those conversations sound like? What topics would we talk, especially like when we're talking about very young children, how do we kind of bring up that things affect us, things affect our bodies and our mood and our behaviors?
With really young kids, again, from like 0 to 2, we do some emotion labeling, right? We literally actually give them the language for what it is they're experiencing. It looks like you're sad because it's time to be done with screens, or it looks like you're really having a great time dancing favorite dino video, right? Or I can tell that you're really excited because we get to watch one more episode. You're using the language that you want them to be able to adopt and be able to think a little bit more about, right? Or I can tell that you're getting a little bit of the wiggles in your body because we've been sitting for a while. It's time to do a little bit of a dance break or to mix it up a little bit that way, right? So, really kind of not just narrating, but literally labeling for them in a specific way what they're experiencing and what's going on for them. Um, for slightly older kids, right? We're going to be not just narrating that, but maybe even talking with them a little bit about like a little bit of a full body scan, right? Or like a head, knees, and shoulder, head, shoulders, knees, and toes type of situation. How does your head feel after you watch that? How do your shoulders feel? Are your knees and toes ready for some wiggling because you've been sitting for a little bit, right? So, how does that go? And similarly, as adults, talking out loud and providing anecdotes about like, oh, I started on my phone and I got stuck on that. I was on my phone longer than I intended. That can happen, right? So, really making sure that we're having open, honest conversations about the way media can impact us or, kind of take things over in certain moments.
Yeah. I want to talk about modeling, but just before that, are there things that parents can do or be aware of to promote more of those positive responses and positive, like healthy behaviors when they're choosing media or like when we choose certain types of media? You mentioned in the middle of the day, maybe you can get more energetic, but when should we not do that? When should we
Yeah, I
not
mean,
choose that kind of
it's a
media?
good question. I mean, it's definitely something that you want to be again proactive, which is challenging for parents given the limited amount of time they have on a daily basis. But we want to really be considering first and foremost, like what is the goal of the content that their child is consuming or that your children are consuming? Like, is there an anecdote? Is there a lesson learned? Does the content promote the values that are consistent with what you're trying to instill in your children? Or does the content promote a healthy body image or increase knowledge or problem solving? Does it focus on a specific social skill? When you're looking at the content and monitoring the content, having a better idea of what it is your child is supposed to get out of that content could just be pure enjoyment because they love a specific song in that video or something, right? But what is it that it's supposed to do? And then is it really doing that thing?
I love those questions. Those are great to think about. Is it really doing that thing? Interesting. Okay, so now I want to talk about parents modeling because I know it happens to me all the time. I thought I'm just gonna check this one email and then I open social media and then I'm in it and then I'm there for a while and I'm like, oh, what just happened? So I do want to talk about parents' behaviors and their own habits and how that affects how kids behave and interact with media. What can you say about that?
I mean, there is absolutely no doubt in my mind after years and years of experience working with children and families that children pay attention to what we say, but they pay way more attention to what we do than just what we say. And so they are paying attention to how we prioritize our devices and whether or not they're more or less important than a device. If you're responding to every single ping or every single time that your phone goes off with swiftness and interrupting your engagement with them to switch, I'm not talking about busy parents who might be like waiting on a specific phone call, but if generally speaking, you're putting your phone or your device first, that can really be unintentionally giving your child the wrong messaging, not just about how you feel about them, but how they should feel about devices and media and tech in the future. So I know that it's really difficult. We're primed to kind of like look at the screen immediately when we hear the ping or immediately kind of pay attention to the vibrate. That means parents sometimes do need to put their phone aside, or they do need to kind of have set times that they're going to check their phone versus being reactive to it immediately. Similarly, if parents are using their phone to cope or to manage stress in the day, because that can happen, right? I mean, parents are going to tell their kids to take cookie breaths, right? Smell those cookies in through your nose,
Yeah.
blow on those cookies out through your mouth. But if you never see your parent take a cookie breath, then why would you bother, right? So we really want to make sure that parents are not just saying these things, they're practicing what they preach, and having some time away from screens or having some time away from their device when it's appropriate and they feel like it's okay to do that with work or something, that really, that time is very valuable, and kids are going to be watching and paying attention to how that works.
Hmm. Do you have any examples or ideas for um like I've heard of like a device parking lot or like other creative things that help the whole family like really get on board with having some device free or screen free time. Do you have any other ideas like that?
I think that, sometimes being really mindful about, I love the idea of a basket that phones or devices kind of go in at certain times or during particular routines. I love the idea of, I have a couple families that use like a traffic light, and they will put their phones on red, and then they'll like phones go away for a bit, and then they put them on green when they're available again in some way to make it a little bit more visual for and accountable for everybody involved in some way. I think that also kind of being, again, intentional as a parent about, this is my home time versus my work time, and possibly even using strategies. I know I've worked with a number of parents where they wouldn't normally have put up away messages, but they felt like when they put up an away message, it gave them permission to actually check out or to pull back on their device in some way, shape, or form, or, using the do not disturb, feature in some way, or, being a little, like I said, a little bit more intentional about the way that they not just make decisions, but also what they implement on a daily basis to let others know I'm not really available. It's not this time, or limiting their own, social media in some way, or tracking it in some way. How much time this week did I really spend on, social media versus what I was hoping to do in the way of play, right? So I think again, it's hard, it's really challenging as working parents, or even, just parents who are trying to gather information and news on a daily basis, but there are ways to still make sure that your child sees themselves as the priority versus the device.
Mm. So, what are some practices that families can try to kind of grow in that awareness, like recognizing the feelings, recognizing their body sensations, and also recognizing the times when their priorities might not be shining through in in the way that they'd hope?
Again, I think that, some of it has to do with tracking in some way. Almost all of us at the end of a week get some type of report on our phone related to how much we've been using things, but we might not be tracking how much, just free play we've done with our child in the week. And so actually kind of jotting that down or making a note of it, or keeping a stopwatch of it on a daily basis to get a better idea of what your averages are like in that way, and then comparing those numbers. And they don't necessarily need to be in a very specific ratio every single day, but are they trending in the right direction? Are they in line with the values that you have or the goals that you have for interacting and beefing up your free play time in some way, shape, or form, right? So being, conscious of it, noticing, like we talked about in the previous habit, and then also, engaging in that way in a slightly, making changes if you need to make sure that your values and what you're saying and doing all align.